Okay, so this is the S.O.L.V.E technique at BlueTree, whereby we actually teach the students. All right, it's actually a very easy technique called S.O.L.V.E, S-O.L.V.E. All right, so S stands for search for clues. All right, so basically when you come across a word problem or problem sum, it's quite lengthy or there's some words, so you need to actually read carefully for the clues. So which is why you search for clues. All right, and you may read and write or draw a model, okay, to take down the notes. So for example, if let's say the question says B has twice as many as A, that will give you a clue that B will have 3 units and A will have 1 unit. So you want to obtain the evidence in this case that the total of A and B together is 4 units. And they may give you a clue like, oh, this 4 units represents $20. So you can actually link it up, all right? So to write down the statement, 4 units actually represents $20. And from there, you can do the next step from solve, which is locate the key or search for the key, find the key, all right? And you can find out 1 unit is actually 5 when you divide 20 by 4. Then once you have found this step, right, usually what you do is you reread the question again, all right, to solve the mystery, to find out what exactly the question is asking for. All right, they may ask for, oh, so how much money does B have? Then you have to multiply by 3 in that sense. All right, let's move on. Okay, the next popular approach that we teach at BlueTree is actually a tic-tac-toe table, right? And this is actually associated with start, change, end, or some schools teach before, change, after, quantity times value, total, all right? It's mainly used in ratio, percentage, involving fractions as well, all right? So you also often have equal concepts like your equal beginning, equal ending, and equal change. All right, as you can see over here, these are the PSLE topics that is tested from the various levels, primary 4, primary 5, primary 6. All right, and over here, there's a whole table, so you can look at it. So majority of the questions coming from these topics will be mainly coming from fractions, ratio, and percentage, and numbers as well. All right. So you can see, all right, this numbers, measurement, ratio, and percentage actually makes up almost 65%, or bare minimum 60% in the past few years of PSLE being tested. So you can see this is the tabulation, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. All right, these 3 components here will actually give you quite a estimated amount of like 60 percentile. Okay, and if you look carefully, right, for the segment on geometry, all right, in the year 2020 is 17%, 2021 is 17%, 2022 is 23%, and 2023 there's an increase to 29%. So today, as me and teacher Sherlyn goes through some of the questions in the 2023 PSLE paper, we will also focus a little bit more on the geometry questions, all right? Okay, first question here, all right, this is from paper 1, question 14. All right, Mrs. Wong wanted to divide 32 girls and 60 boys equally into as many teams as possible. Each team had the same number of children. The number of boys in each team was the same. How many boys were there in each team? So when you first read this question, you should identify that this question is actually involving factors and multiples. When they give you the numbers 72 girls and 60 boys are divided equally. All right, and each team has the same number of children. All right. And in the question, there's important clue. They say as many teams as possible. That means they want to have as many groups, the maximum number of groups, which is actually referring to your highest common factor or HCF. All right, so what you should do to tackle this question is you list down factors of 72 and list down factors of 60. So what are some factors of 72 and 60, students? Okay, so you may say, 1 times 72, 2 times 36, 3 times 24, and so on. Yeah, so we actually encourage students to list them down in a systematic order. Try not to jump, 1 times 72, then 8 times 9, 4 times 18. Then there's a tendency that you might miss out some of the factors. If you list it in a systematic increasing order from 1 and as many as possible, all right, you will actually reach the numbers will actually meet each other. And when the numbers meet each other like 8 times 9, you know that there's no other factors, so you have listed all the factors. That's a good technique. All right, same thing for factors of 60. Okay, let's look at it. We also have 1 times 60, 2 times 30, and so on. All right, so over here, once you have listed all the factors for these two numbers, what you want to do is actually to look for the highest common factor. And in this case, you will notice, oh, the common factor here is 12, and that will actually represent the number of groups. Okay, yeah, and the number that they are multiplied with would actually be the number of girls and boys. So you can directly find out the answer. What would it be? So they're asking for number of boys in each team. So you should have the answer of number 5.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Graham. Okay, now I'm going to go through the next question. Okay, so the next one is a paper 1 question. All right, and this is a 2 marks question, MCQ. Okay, so if you take a look at this question, it involves fractions, ratio, and later we will look at the cut and paste technique. Okay, so let's read the question first. ABCD is a rectangle. E and F are points on AD such that AE is equals to EF is equals to FD. So let's take a pause. Okay, whenever we see questions like this, I always ask my students to read the question. We don't just look at the diagram, because all the hints, all the information are in the question itself. Okay, so we will use read and write, what Teacher Graham shared previously, the S.O.L.V.E technique, right, to solve this question. Okay, so let's take a look. AE is equals to EF is equals to FD. So I'll draw the lines to show that they are equal. All right, and then the next one, the area of EGF. So if you take a look at EGF, it's actually a small triangle in purple here, right? To the area of ABF is 1:8. So 1 is the purple triangle, and then 8 is the entire green triangle here. Okay, so if you do a very simple math, right, to find this shaded part here, what do you think it is? Okay, is it 8 or is it 7? Yes, it's actually 7. Okay, so if this is 7, now let's take a look, students. If this is 7, do you realize that this part here is actually exactly the same? So hence this will also be 7. Okay, so now that's all. That's all that we have written down based on the question. So what's the question asking you to find now? They say that what fraction of ABCD is shaded? Remember, when the question is asking for fraction, right, there has to be a numerator and a denominator. Okay, so the numerator will be the shaded part. So let's find out what is the shaded area. So what we can do is we take 7 plus 1 plus 7. Okay, so we know that the shaded area is 15 units now. So now we have to find the denominator of the fraction, which is the area of ABCD. Okay, which is the entire rectangle here. Okay, so now let's take a look. Everything else is the same. This entire thing is what we have done previously. What I did was I just copied the diagram on the side. Okay, so how do we find out what is the area of this entire rectangle here? Okay, let's take a look. Can you see that there's a green triangle here? Okay, triangle ABF, right? If I were to flip it upwards and I push it down, all right, and I slide it to the side. Okay, it's the same green triangle, all right? So what do you notice? These two triangles are actually exactly the same. Okay, and triangle CDE, which is the shaded triangle here, is actually equals to this green triangle here. Okay, and since both of them are equal, we know that this is shaded, right? And the area of each of them is 8 and 8. Hence, this will be 2/3 of the entire rectangle, because earlier, remember, they said that AE is equals to EF is equals to FE. Hence, this is 1 unit. This will also be 1 unit here. So this will be 2 units of the entire rectangle. Okay? So hence, 2/3 of ABCD is actually 16 units. So now if you know that 2/3 of the entire rectangle is 16 units, right? How do we find out what is the area of the entire rectangle? Okay, maybe you all think about it first. Okay, the entire rectangle is made out of 3 parts, right? So we do some division and multiplication. We will know that the area of the entire rectangle is 24. Okay, great. So what's the question asking? What fraction of ABCD is shaded? Okay, so the numerator will be the shaded area, which is 15. And the entire area of the rectangle is 24. So remember to simplify it, and then you get option 2. So if you take a look at this question, 2 marks, I think that this question requires you to actually understand the concept quite a bit, and then you also have to use cut and paste. So this requires visualization. So I always share with my students that for visualization, right, it's something that you don't learn in P5 or P6 just like that. Okay, it's good to start practicing when you are young. Like, you know, Teacher Graham is very good at it, right? So what do you do to be so good at visualization? Maybe you want to share with them.
Ever since I was a kid, when I was in school, I'm a visual learner. All right, so I need to see it or draw diagrams or draw models. So it comes quite naturally. I would say if you practice a lot of primary 3 and primary 4 questions with model drawing, you actually can visualize quite well.
Yeah, so we don't start only when we're doing math, right? So start playing, you know, start drawing your model, okay? Don't just visualize in your head, always write it down on the paper. Okay, so this will help you a lot when you move on to upper primary. When you have such questions, right, then you need to visualize. Okay? Okay, let's move on to the next question.